Shalom Aleichem. Once again, welcome to Lekutei Sichos Chelek Yud Beis, Sicha Bechukosai Beis, the final Sicha in the Sefer. And the Rashi that we're going to learn today in the Sicha is also the last Rashi in the Parsha, and therefore the last Rashi in the Chumash of Vayikra. And the topic, similar to Bechukosai Aleph, which was the topic was Ma'aser Behema, also this Sicha is on the topic of Ma'aser Behema. And it's interesting to note that as we get to the Yeina Shel Torah later on in the Sicha, the Rebbe referred to it as this is a place where we see how Nigla and Chassidus, how the revealed parts of Torah and the hidden parts or the Chassidus part of Torah, the inner part, the deeper part of Torah, complement one another to help us understand better these halachas and this Rashi, the way Rashi understands the pasuk and explains it to us. Just to give a brief introduction on Ma'aser Behema means that out of every 10 animals, one would become Ma'aser. The way this was done was all the animals were gathered into the barn, and then all the animals that were born in that year were gathered into the barn, and then they would come out one by one. And when the 10th one would come out, the person would count 1, 2, 3, and then when the 10th one would come out, he would put some paint, some red dye on the behema, and that would be marked as meiser. The animal that was meiser would become a korban. It would be brought on the mizbeach, and the meat was given to the owner, not to the kohen. It was given to the owner to be able to eat and enjoy the shnei yamim v'layla echad, as we say in the beginning of davening in the karbanos. So that's the seder. That's how meiser behema would work. So the parsha ends with the dinim of Ma'aser Behema, and it says as follows. Let's see it inside. The dinim Ma'aser Behema shebeseif parshaseinu ala pasuk le'yevaker ben tev l'ra. The parsha says in the pasuk le'yevaker ben tev l'ra, which we're going to talk in a moment what yevaker means, but literally means you shouldn't check, shouldn't inspect, you shouldn't look at the difference between good and bad. Pirush Rashi. So Rashi says le'yevaker v'goymer. So he quotes the words lo yevaker from the pasuk and says v'goymer, etc. The fish in another place when it speaks about karbanos, it says that you should give the best. When you give a neder, when you give a carbon, it should be from the best. Mivchar, from the choice, from the choicest. I would think that you should choose to find the best animal to give as the meiser, to give as the tithe, as the 10th one. Talmud Leimar, therefore the pasuk says, Le yevaker ben tev l'ra, you shouldn't choose good or bad. In other words, whichever one comes out as the 10th, that's the one that's meiser. And then Rashi continues, Bein tam, bein balmum, chalol of kedusha. Whether it's a tam, whether it's a balmum, whether it's an unblemished animal, or whether it's a blemished animal, an animal with a mum, it still becomes holy, it still has a kedusha. But if it's a balmum, it can't go on the mizbeach. So Rashi continues, not that an animal that's a balmum, with a blemish, should go on the mizbeach. It is eaten as meiser in the same law structure as meiser. Again, we will address this later in the Sicha. And it is forbidden for this animal to be shorn, for the fur, for the hair to be cut off, and to be used to work in the field. So that's what Rashi says. Rashi says, number one, that we shouldn't think that we have to find the best one. Whichever one comes out as the 10th is the one. Whether it's a tam, whether it has a mum, and if it's a balmum, it won't be brought in the mizbeach, but it will also cannot be used to cut off its hair, to shear it, or to have it work in the field. The first part of Rashi, where it says the words the fish and nemar, because it says I would think that you should choose out the best. So it comes to tell me lo yevaker ben tev l'ra. That is mekoyre b'teras koyanim. That comes from the Teras Kohanim, which is one of the Medrashim mentioned numerous times in the Sichos previously, one of the Medrashim on Chumash Vayikra, Sifra. And the second half is based on the Gemara. Omnam Yadua, We know that Rashi does not quote a medrash unless the medrash is necessary to understand the pasuk. Maybe Rashi drashas teras kenim. So why does Rashi bring this teras kenim over here? This medrash. It's a very obvious, very simple why Rashi brings this. Because you don't understand, why does the pasuk have to say the words that he shouldn't choose good or bad? Din meiser behema mafunish because of akadim. The laws of meiser behema and how it's done are already explained in the previous pasuk. Anything that will go under the rod, under the staff, ha'asidi, the 10th one, yekedish la'Hashem, is holy, is sanctified as meiser to Hashem. Shepshutei, which simply means the seder is, the order is that the animals go, they pass under the staff. And the 10th one is holy. Not that he should choose one out of the 10. Additionally, even if you look in the pasuk Yaver, it'll pass. And not that he'll make it pass. Understood that it goes by itself. So not only are you not choosing, but you're letting the behemoth go. So therefore, based on this pasuk, which is right before the pasuk, immediately before the one we just learned, so we already know that the person shouldn't choose which one should become holy. So why does this next pasuk have to tell me that he shouldn't choose? That because there's another pasuk that says that when it comes to a neder, when it comes to a korban, it should be the best one. That a person might think that he should choose the best one. So in other words, we're explaining why does Rashi come to explain this to me, even though Rashi the pasuk already told me that I should follow the system of letting the sheep pass through the doorway, and when the 10th one is holy. So he says that the pasuk then says again lo yivaker ben toiv l'ra, to exclude the person who's thinking that he should pick the best one based on the pasuk says the pasuk no lo yivaker ben toiv l'ra. That seems to be the explanation of why Rashi is bringing this teras kenim. What is bothering Rashi? This extra pasuk of lo yivaker ben toiv l'ra. But if this is what Rashi is coming to tell us, Rashi is just explaining to us why it says the leivakir ben toiv l'ra, because it's coming to respond to the chomivcha nedrechem in Parshas Re'eh. Then we have some questions. Number one, the end of Rashi doesn't fit, because what does Rashi say? Talmud lemer leivakir ben toiv l'ra, bein tam bein balmum chol olav kedusha. That whether it's a tam or a balmum, the kedusha falls on, which means that the kedusha becomes applied to the meiser behema. How do you love sefer Reisha? The end and the beginning of Rashi, the two parts of Rashi, are inconsistent, and we're going to explain what's bothering us in the next Aleph Beis and Gimel, Aleph Beis Gimel Daladei. 5 questions. Number 1, Hakosaka daitachu rak the olav livre lehetzias hayafa v'lachin nemar leyevaker. We thought that a person should pick out the best, and therefore it says leyevaker. Avu menalan leimar de v'chol mivcha nedrechem u'liikuva. But why would I think that v'chol mivcha nedrechem, that the idea that I should pick out the best is a must? To think that if I didn't bring out the best one, that it wouldn't even become holy. And because of that, Rashi has to tell me to exclude that and say that no, that it still would be holy regardless of what came out. In other words, the svara was that maybe I should pick out the best one. But no one ever thought that if I didn't do that, that whatever came out in the 10th, Asidi Kodesh. The pasuk said clearly Asidi Kodesh. So I know that if I didn't pick out the choicest one, still whichever one comes out is holy. So why does Rashi have to tell me that? What would I not know? Where was there a hava mina that the chamivcha nidrechem is liikuva? Liikuva means it's a must, and that you can't have ma'aseh beima without it. That I would think that if I didn't do mivcha nidrechem, that it's not, the kedusha is not chal on the 10th one, and because the Rashi has to tell me bein tam bein balmum chal all of kedusha. We never even thought that in the first place. Base. The second question on the inconsistency of the first half of Rashi and the second half of Rashi. Pasach beyafa u'misayim betam. He starts in the word yafa, that I would think I should pick out the yafa. Yafa means the nice one. In the end, he's telling me tam and balmum, and we're going to explain why this is a question. In the original idea, where I would have thought that I should I should choose a good one, it's not to disqualify a balmum. A balmum I didn't even think was even being discussed. Because the whole origin of where I would originally even think to take out a yafa is from Mivchan Idrechem. Over there it's talking about that you should take the Mivchan Idrechem, the best, the choicest, which you're going to promise to Hashem. A balmum, you're not allowed to bring it to Hashem. And therefore, Einei Besug Nidrechem Klal is not even in the category of Nidrechem. So if I say v'chol mivchar nidrechem, I don't mean to say a non-balmum, a tam, over a balmum. It's obvious that it has to be a tam. Mivchar nidrechem is saying within the tams, it has to be mivchar. Ela hakavana b'zeh, he sheyikach behema yafa kipsutay. That what does it mean mivchar nidrechem? That a person should take a nice, literally nice animal, shmeina, a fat one. The ras mara, not the skinny one, or one that looks bad, or that a chusha, one that looks weak and sickly. So obviously, we weren't even thinking about a balmum. When we even discuss mivchan nidrechem, we're discussing to take a better one within the non-balmum category. V'im kein. So when Nashi is coming to tell me, the pasuk is telling me that I don't have to find the yafa. Yafa, like I just said over here, means within a non-balmum. It has to be yafa, shmeina, a fat one, a good, healthy one. So why are we now discussing a tam and a balmum? That wasn't part of the discussion in the beginning. In the beginning we were discussing yafa. Yafa meaning a shmeina, within the non-balmum category. Tam, balmum, man charshmei. Who even mentioned tam and balmum? We weren't even discussing that. Beis mikiv on the pirish akasav leyevaker ben tevlera. Who shall leyevaker? That's a yafa mitech sha'ar hasha'ar shebe'edrei sheinam yafim. Since what the pasuk is telling me is that it means to tell me I shouldn't choose out the best, the good one, from the ones in the eder, in the herd, that are not good. But nevertheless, everyone agrees that both of them are fit for being a carbon. How do we actually know that even if it's a balmum, the kedusha would be chal on it? Since we're talking over here that the pasuk is telling me that I shouldn't pick the good one out of the tam, out of the ones that are tam. How do I know from this pasuk that if it's a balmum, chalal of kedusha? It's a big chiddush. So that's our second question. That we started out talking about the yafa, which would imply a healthy, juicy animal. We ended up in the second half talking about tam and balmum, which number one, we weren't even talking about tam and balmum, and number two, where do I even know that a balmum taka is chalal of kedusha? Gimel. Third question, Gam tzarich lavin, betchilas pirush v'maytek rak hateves leyevaker, v'teves ben tev l'ram ram es bevegoymar. Rashi in the beginning only quotes the words leyevaker from the pasuk, and then says v'goymar, which means etc., which is alluding to the words bein tov l'ra in the pasuk, ubeemtza, and then later in the middle of the Rashi, maitik gam bein tov l'ra. Rashi also quotes the words bein tov l'ra, so he doesn't put it all in the dibur hamaschil. First, he only says the words le'yavaker and then says v'goymar to allude to the rest of the pasuk, and later in the Rashi he quotes the words bein tov l'ra from the pasuk. So why is it structured that way? Dalet, fourth question. We also have to understand in the Rashi's conclusion, the long-windedness of Rashi's words. The word that he shouldn't be makriv as a balmum is seemingly obvious. We already know that if it's a balmum, it is not brought on the mizbeach. So what's Rashi trying to tell us here? And question A, where does Rashi know these two aspects? One, that it should be eaten as meiser, and two, that you're not allowed to shear it or work it in the field. It's two different details within the halachas of meiser behema, that a meiser behema that becomes a balmum, or that was a balmum. How does Rashi know these two things? In other words, where in Psudisol Mikra does Rashi know these two things? So these are our questions. In other words, based on the fact that we explained that Rashi's whole purpose is to tell us that we don't have to rely on V'chol Mivchar Nidreichem. We don't have to follow V'chol Mivchar Nidreichem. And we don't choose the best one, the choicest one. If that's Rashi's entire purpose, then number one, why would I even think that a bein tam, bein balmum, why does Rashi have to tell me that bein tam, bein balmum chalol of Kedusha, if this is not something that we were talking about? If at the beginning we started out talking about the yafeh, the good one, the choicest one, as in the fat and healthy one, why do we later end up talking about the tam and the balmum? Why is Rashi's Dibur HaMaschil cut into two? That earlier he starts with Le'yavaker and later he says the words Ben Tev L'Ra. Why does Rashi have to bring in the fact that it cannot be, we would not be makriv the Balmum? And where does Rashi, what is the makr, what is the source for Rashi in Pshutei Shel Mikra that both the meat of the Balmum Meiser is eaten as Meiser, and two, that it cannot be shorn or worked in the field? So these are our questions that we have on this Rashi. In other words, clearly we're missing something, because from all these questions, we're clearly missing something. There must be more to the Rashi than just coming to respond to the pasuk of V'chol Mivchar Nidreichem. And this is what we're going to learn in Eis Beis. V'abir baza. Tevas lo yevaker, the word yevaker, efsher ba beis pirushim. There are two translations to the word yevaker. Aleph, birur. In the Yiddish, the word that Rabbi uses is uiskleiben, which means to choose or to select. Benidin didan, levaker ulahoitzi behema achas, mitoicha eser shebedrei, to choose, to select one out of the 10 in his herd. Beis, the second translation, miloshin bikairis, which in Yiddish the word that Rabbi used was uisfarshin. I don't know exactly when you use the word bikairis and uisfarshin which would be the best English word. So uisfarshin means to research or to examine. So to examine within didan pirusha loisha yevarer echad mitei chashai doesn't mean to pick one out of the rest. And the last is bikairis b'chol edrei, to examine the entire herd. That each of the 10 animals, of which the 10th one will become holy, tia mivukeres, should be examined, should be looked over before it goes through the meiser process. So there's one way you could say yevaker means you shouldn't choose the 10th, you shouldn't choose the one that's being used. Another leyevaker, he shouldn't examine the entire herd, the entire group of 10 or groups of 10 before choosing, going through the meiser process. According to halacha, Mutter lasses b'keiros b'teich edrei. You're allowed to examine the eder. Hainu sheyochel lishdi beimuma b'chula edri. It's permissible for him to put a mum into every single one of the animals in the eder. And then the 10th one will also be a balmum. It's allowed. That would be called making bikairis. He's not just examining, but he's actually manipulating the meiser. That you can't pick exactly which one it's going to be. But if you let through all of them and they're all balimum, then the 10th one will for sure be a balmum. And al pi halacha, this is acceptable. So it's obvious in the other direction. So you're allowed to examine the eder, the herd, that they should all be good ones. And automatically the 10th one will be good. The person wants to give a 10th, he wants to make sure that his ma'aser is a yafa. So what can he do? I was trying to figure out exactly how this would work. In other words, if you have 50 animals, how do you make them all good ones? Some of them are not good. But maybe what one can do is say, let's say he has 50 animals and 10 of them are good. So if you just let all 50 go through, it might be that the 5 mices, the 5 behemoths being used for mice might all be not such good ones. But if he takes 10 good ones and puts them all together, at least he's guaranteed that one of these 10 will be meiser, and at least one of his meisers will be a good one. I don't know if this is the only way to be mevaker, shetiyena kulon yafes, but maybe this is one of the ways. But the idea is that just like you're allowed to make them all bad, you're allowed to make them all good. Now, v'hini lepashtas haksuvim. Let's go through this because we're going to go one way, then we're going to go the other way, and then we're going to come back to where we started from. So let's take it one paragraph at a time. If lo yevaker means birur, choosing, selecting, and the Torah is telling me that I shouldn't select one good one, the pasuk where he said that whatever comes under the staff, the 10th one is holy. So we already know from the previous pasuk that the way it's done is that you let them all go through and you don't select which one you want. Whichever one comes out as the 10th is the one. So therefore, logically, it would make more sense. So I would think that lo yevaker means not to select. I already know from the previous pasuk. So if it says lo yevaker in this pasuk, it must mean that I shouldn't manipulate the 10, all the 10 going in, that the meiser should come out according to what I want. That's what I would think. Ulam Rashi ba'lefaresh, and that's why Rashi comes here, not just to tell me v'chol mivchar nidreichem, which we're going to get to in a moment. Rashi is telling me I don't know what lo yevaker means. I would think that lo yevaker means not to examine, not to manipulate the eder. But that's not what it means. Rashi ba'lefaresh ki lo yevaker miloshin birur v'lei bikeiros. That lo yevaker means not to select the one that I want for meiser, and it doesn't mean not to examine the whole eder. If you remember, our question Gimel was, why does Rashi say lo yevaker and just for goymer and doesn't finish off the rest of the pasuk? Because Rashi is telling us that he's focused on explaining the words lo yevaker. And therefore he says, lo yevaker, I'm not here to tell you what you're supposed to do and why you're supposed to do it. I'm telling you what lo yevaker means. Lo yevaker means don't select the good one from the not good ones. But still, how does Rashi know that lo yevaker means miloshen birur? From the words bein tov l'ra. And therefore Rashi puts in the v'goymar to allude to the words bein tov l'ra, because that's his proof, that's his compelling proof that lo yevaker means birur and not bikeiros. What's the proof from the Bein Tov L'Ra? Lifnei kishmedaber ba'afrashas behema lekarben nemar lo yach. Earlier on, when it's telling us about a person, not ma'aser behema, but a person is designated a behema for a carbon, it says lo yach lifenu v'lo yamirei. So you shouldn't swap it. You shouldn't change this carbon for another carbon. And what does the pasuk say? Toiv bera or ra b'toiv. Good for bad or bad for good. Even if this pasuk was telling me that I shouldn't manipulate the eider to get a desired result, then it should have said lo yevaker bein tov l'ra u bein ra l'tov. It should have said both things, just like the pasuk before said both things. So the k'meishem levaker es edrish shetiyena kol avemus jafis k'meikin tzarich lahazer shelo yevaker shetiyena kol anois. That just like the pasuk wants to tell me that I shouldn't manipulate it, that they should all be good ones, I shouldn't either manipulate it that they should all be bad ones. So if it meant bikairas, the pasuk should have told me both aspects. I shouldn't manipulate it to the good, I shouldn't manipulate it to the bad. And since it only says it one way, that I shouldn't pick the good from the bad, it's telling me that lo yevaker means I shouldn't choose. Why would I even, if you're going to ask me, why would I even think that I should choose the good from the bad? That because it says in the other pasuk in Parashas Re'eh, I would think that you should choose the best. So therefore the pasuk is telling me not to choose the best. But it only has to tell me bein tov l'ra because I certainly wouldn't think I should choose the bad from the good. Because if the whole thing is based on v'cham mivcha nidreichem, then obviously I'm going to pick I'm going to pick good. So I use that it says bein tov l'ra and not bein ra l'tov. Therefore I must understand that the yevaker is coming from the lashon birur, choosing. V'lochin in akasav meisiv bein ra l'tov. Since the pasuk already told me that asiri, whatever goes under the staff, the 10th one will be holy. So there's no source, there's no basis for pulling one out. Unless you're going to rely on the pasuk of kol mivcha nidreichem, which means shepirushay levarer ulehetzi es hayofa. The whole kol mivcha nidreichem means to pull out the best. So therefore, the only thing I have to respond, the only thing I have to disqualify, that I shouldn't do that. I shouldn't pick the best one based on the Chol Mivcha Nidreichem. And that's why I said, le'yevaker ben tov l'ra. To not follow the Chol Mivcha Nidreichem. But there's no hava amina that I would think to choose the bad. But if it meant bikairas, then it doesn't make sense why it just says one direction, ben tov l'ra, not ben ala tov. And this is Rashi's hechrich, that when it says lo yevaker, it means you shouldn't do birur, you shouldn't select the good, the yafa. So this answers our first question. This answers our first half, our first part of Rashi. What is bothering Rashi when Rashi says, two things Rashi is telling me. Number one, he's telling me that lo yevaker means lashon birur and not lashon bikairas. And what's the raya that it says lashon, that it means lashon bikur? Lashon birur is because it only says bein tov l'ra, and why would I think that I should choose the good one is because of the pasuk of v'cham mivcha nidreichem. However, there's another half of the Rashi that we still have to explain. So for this, he says in question Gimel that there's another question that we have on the pasuk that because of that Rashi has to explain more. We still have to understand, and this is a question that we would have on the pasuk based on our interpretation of Rashi so far. Since the lo yevaker ben tevlera is only coming to exclude that we shouldn't learn from v'chom yivchan idreichem to choose the best one. Harei haya masbik lichtiv lo yevaker v'tuloi shegam ozo yamuchrach lefarish ha'meduber u'bebikor hayafa. Just like we said that by birur, that if lo yevaker means lashon birur, it doesn't have to say ben ra l'toiv, because obviously no one's going to choose the bad if the whole point here is v'chom yivchan idreichem. So, based on the v'chom yivchan idreichem, that the only thing I would think to choose is the good from the bad, then it could have just said lo yevaker. Could have just said the words lo yevaker, and I would understand it means don't choose. Obviously it means don't choose the good from the bad, because that's the only kind of choice that we're talking about over here. Ki balade akas v'chom yivchan idreichem shekavanasei ala yofe ein seirich lishlos lo yivres asiri me'achas shekvar nemar akas yave v'gemer kinis kilel without v'chom yivchan idreichem, which is telling me that I shouldn't choose the best. For sure I would know not to choose anything, because it says kilos yevet achas hashavet. So I already know not to choose. It's only because of v'chom yivchan idreichem I think I should choose the yafa. So if it says lo yevaker, the only havamin is to mevaker the toiv. So it could have just said lo yevaker, and I would already know not to choose the good from the bad. And based on this, the words ben teiv l'ra are extra. Could have just said lo yevaker. And therefore, yes, the pasuk says ben teiv l'ra. And remember from our question that Rabbi pointed out that the Rashi now all of a sudden, after explaining the first half of Rashi, now quotes again from the pasuk the words bein tov l'ra, because Rashi is telling me that bein tov l'ra is teaching me a new concept, the concept of tam u'balmum. That first Rashi told me that I shouldn't pick any of them, and I should just let them all go out under the shevet, and whichever one comes on the 10th Asiri Kedesh. What happens if the one that came out happened to be a balmum? So Rashi is telling me that being the fact that it says lo yevaker ben teiv l'ra teaches me that bein tam bein balmum cholol of kedusha, that whether the 10th one that came out is a tam, an unblemished animal, whether it's a balmum, an animal with a blemish, it's still kodesh. Yav shein balmum karav l'gabei hamizbeach u'kedusha ha'maiser l'karav l'mizbeach. And even though balmum can't go on the mizbeach, and the whole kedusha of meiser is that it's being brought as a korban, we are learning from the words lo yevaker ben teiv l'ra. Shapirish gam tam u'balmum, which we're learning from this now, the fact that it says extra words ben teiv l'ra to include a tam and a balmum. In other words, remember earlier when it said we were thinking of choosing, we talked about a yafa, but now we're introducing a whole new idea that also the tam and the balmum are hinted in the words lo yevaker in the words ben teiv l'ra. And it's coming to tell me that even though it can't go on the mizbeach, nevertheless, shegam balmum chala alav kedusha, that even the balmum is still kadosh. What kind of kadosh is it talking about? It can't be brought as balmum. We will, in a moment, we will explain in vaz bastate the kedusha of the balmum, the kedusha of the balmum, and the fact that it's eaten as meiser and it cannot be shorn or worked in the field. So now, we didn't yet explain what the kedusha of the balmum is, but now we understand the second half of Rashi, and the first three questions of the Rebbe in the beginning of the Sikha are basically answered by now, because they were all based on the fact that the Rashi was one long hemshech. Now that we've discovered that there's two different things in Rashi, the first half of Rashi is telling me that I shouldn't choose a yafa. The second half of Rashi is telling me that Bein Tam, Bein Balmum Chalol of Kedusha. So this is why there's two separate parts in the Dibur HaMaschil of Rashi. This is why Pasach B'Yafav is Messiah B'Tam, because the Takatalka two different things, and this is why Lav Sefer Reisha, because the Sefer and the Reisha are teaching me two different things. So the first three questions of the Sikha are answered with this one word that when the Pasuk says Ben Tov L'Ra, that is not necessary to the Lo Yevakir, the Pasuk is introducing a second and a new inyan that Bein Tam, Bein Balmum Chalol of Kedusha. And now we have to explain what's the pshat? What's the pshat that the Balmum is Kaddish? What does it mean? The word is Asiri Yiyah Kedesh, and then it says again in the pasuk. So both in the pasuk before Asiri Yiyah Kedesh Lashem, and also in the pasuk over here where it says Lo Yevaker Ben Tov L'Ra, it ends off with the words Yiyah Kedesh, and Yiyah, if you see, is emphasized. Because the lifnei Asiri Yiyah Kedesh Lashem ve'Shafas Teves Yiyah Mizeh Mashma the Noisef al Etzem Chalois HaKedusha ala Behema. In addition to the very holiness that is applied to the behema automatically by going under the shevet, by going under the staff, it has to also be made holy. In other words, the chalois is the application of kedusha that happens automatically, together with something that is being done, an action that is being taken to apply that kedusha. As soon as it becomes holy, because it went under the shevet, an action has to be done to it to make it holy. In the previous pasuk where it says Ha'asidi Yiyah Kedesh, Rashi explains Nikarav LaMizbeach or Likarav LaMizbeach. It is brought onto the mizbeach. Nikarav LaMizbeach Damei ve'imurav. The blood and the innards are brought on the mizbeach. Ve'abosam nechal habaylim, and the meat is eaten by the baylim. So what's the kedusha of the meiser behema? That is it's a korban. So Zui Pulas Akdusha Achayuvis, this is the positive action of Kedusha. That is Shechal ala Adam la Aseisa, Mishaniskacha Behema, that as soon as the Behema becomes holy, because it became Meiser, there's an obligation on this person to bring it to the Beis HaMikdash as a korban. But when it comes in the second pasuk, which is talking about a balmum, how can you say Yiyah Kedesh? How can you do a positive action to show that it is Kedesh beyond just the inherent kedusha, the chalois of kedusha, because it's ma'aser behema? If you can't bring it on the mizbeach, what are you supposed to do? You can't do the regular positive action because it's a balmum. It should be eaten as meiser. This too could be included in a positive action of recognizing its kedusha, the fact that you eat it as meiser. If you remember, we had a question: why does Rashi bring two pratim? One, that yeyachal b'teiras meiser, and two, also ligazas v'liyavid, that it can't be shorn or worked in the field. So he's explaining over here what's going on, what Rashi is telling us, and this answers the question. On the one hand, we says Yiyah Kedesh, which means that our action has to be done to make it holy. It can't be on the mizbeach because it's balmum, so therefore it has to be eaten b'teiras meiser. The meat of this animal as meiser is a positive action. But it's not enough. In order to be able to eat it, you have to shecht it. Now, if it's a balmum, it's not part of the process. It's part of the process of eating it, but it's not part of the process of treating it as meiser, because it's not going onto the mizbeach. So you have to shecht it, and until you shecht it, you can't eat it. So now, in the moment that the kedusha was applied to it because it became meiser, I can't go and eat it yet. So how am I going to fulfill Yiyah Kodesh? That you cannot be shorn and it cannot be worked in the field. In this kedusha, this starts right away. The second it comes out of the barn under the staff, and it marked as Asiri Kodesh from this moment on, even though it's a balmum, you're not allowed to shear it and you're not allowed to work it in the field. But you can't have just that, even though it happens right away. You can't have just like that's not a positive action, it's a negative thing. You cannot shear it or work it in the field. And therefore you also have the first aspect of eating it as meiser. So the eating it as meiser is a positive action, but it's not right away. The not shearing it or working it in the field is a negative action, but it happens right away. But the two together create a Yiyah Kodesh, even though it's a balmum. And that is what Rashi means when he says that if it's a balmum chalal of kedusha, not that he goes on his beach, but the fact that it's eaten the teres meiser and the fact that it's also ligazes v'le aved. And this answers our question number hey. How does Rashi know these two pratim? Because Rashi is bringing out that there has to be a lesson from Ben Tevlera. Ben Tevlera is teaching me that balmum is also kadosh. What does it mean kadosh? It has to mean something beyond just regular kadosh, because it says Yiyah Kodesh. There has to be an action. It has to be an action, so there has to be something that actually defines it as kedusha. And we have two details. One that is applicable right away, which is Asli Gazas B'li Aved, and two, the Yachal B'teres Meiser, which is, it doesn't happen right away, but at least it's a Pe'ula Chiyuvis. It also obviously answers question Dalid, why there's Narichus L'Shoinoi, V'Loisha Yakriv Balmum. Obviously it's not being brought as a Balmum, but what Rashi is coming to tell us is, where do you find the Kedusha of the Meiser Behema if it's a Balmum? And that's the Arichas L'Shoinoi of Rashi, because he's leading us to tell me where the Kedusha is found. Now before we get to the Yena Shel Torah, there's one more detail that has to be addressed. And that is, we said, Ye'achal b'teiras meiser, should be eaten as meiser. What does that mean? What does it mean that you eat it as meiser? And based on this question, we're going to introduce a inyan mufla, a wondrous idea that is relevant in halacha based on this Rashi. We still have to understand, what does it mean that this balmum is kadosh because it's being eaten as meiser? What does it mean? The fact that a meiser behemah could only be eaten for 2 days and 1 night only applies to a tam, not to a balmum. And the fact that it has to be eaten only in Yerushalayim, also that only applies to a tam. But a balmum could be eaten anywhere, even in chutz la'aretz. Which special din, which unique din is applied by eating meiser of a balmum, that because of this you're calling it achila b'teres meiser? And it can't be referring, he says here in the brackets, it can't be referring to the fact that you can't sell the meat in the butcher shop and you can't weigh it like the way you weigh regular meat in the marketplace. That can mean the pshat of nechal b'teiras meiser. In addition to the fact that according to Deis, that iser is only an iser midrabanan by a balmum. Hari aleph zeorakin yishlili. Number one, it's only a negative thing. The whole idea of Echilas B'Teres Meiser, we said in the previous ois, is that it's a pula chiyuvis. If the whole thing is that I can't sell it in the butcher shop, then it's still only a negative thing. Beis v'ikir ain't a din b'achilas meiser. It's not about the eating of the meiser. It's about preparing it. It's about how it's sold, how it's bought. And from the fact that Rashi says you should eat it b'teres meiser, it's mashma that it's a positive thing, not a negative thing, and the fact that it's in the actual eating, not in the preparation of it. So what does it mean? Therefore we must come to say that Rashi means literally that a person has to have in mind that is eating meiser. Seemingly this is a big chiddush because this is not found anywhere else, at least. But the chiddush is that mid'eraisa, when a person eats meiser behema, if the behema is the balmum, he has to have in mind that it's b'teiras meiser. I don't know if this would apply to a eating the meiser behema if it's a tam, because first of all it was already brought as a carbon, so you have a pil chiyuvis. Also the halachas like shnei yom v'layla echad and eaten only in Yerushalayim, so there's other halachas that reminds the person or makes the person know that it's meiser. So I don't know if with Shas he's putting the food in his mouth, he has to be mechaven the potatoes meiser if the behemoth was a tam. I don't see why not, but it doesn't say it, and maybe but if the behemoth was a balmum, and now you're sitting down to eat the meat of the behemoth, of Gdusha, you have to have in mind that I'm eating this potatoes meiser. And with this, we've answered all of our questions. And Rashi, as I mentioned before, we said Oisei, and now we even understand what it means Yachal v'teres meiser. Now we go to the Yena Shal Torah, and as the Rebbe said in the Farbrengen, was da zetmen wie es ist verbunden nigle mit Chassidus. Because what we've just basically said is that even after the behemoth became meiser, and it cannot be used as a carbon because it's balmum, nevertheless it retains its kedusha. And this will be understood according to Chassidus. It's explained in Chassidus that when we refine a davar gashmi, we take a davar gashmi that's used for something ruchnius, and we elevate it to kedusha. There are a number of levels. Umehen dvarim gashmiyim sherak huchnu la'asiyas mitzvah terem shenazeh b'ma mitzvah. Physical, material objects that were prepared for the use of a mitzvah but have not yet been used in a mitzvah. For a wool that was prepared for tzitzis, klaf l'tfilin, parchment that was prepared for tefillin but wasn't yet used for the tefillin, v'chulu, etc. So that's one thing. It's a davar gashmi that's being prepared to be used in a mitzvah. L'mayla mizeh, on a higher level, is advarim hagashmiyim achrei shenasis b'hem mitzvah, after a mitzvah was done with them. Asher azichoch anas b'hem be'ez kiyum mitzvah. That this refinement that took place during the fulfillment of the mitzvah, al yedei kiyum mitzvah, through the fulfillment of the mitzvah, shazu azichoch achrei during the siyas mitzvah, this is the greatest refinement for a davar gashmi. Rishumei nisher ba'adavar gamachrei kiyum mitzvah. The effect of it, the holiness of it remains even after the mitzvah was done. And in this itself there's a difference. You can't compare the remnant, the remainder of the refinement on something that after the Asiyas HaMitzvah are called Tashmishay Kedusha, things that were used for Kedusha. Le'elu she'ein b'hem Kedusha, la'achar Asiyas HaMitzvah, to those that have no Kedusha in them, after the mitzvah was done, U'kumei Tashmishay Mitzvah. In the Gemara Megillah, the Gemara over there differentiates between Tashmishay Kedusha that have to go into Shemis, that are Nignazin, they have to go into Gniza after you're finished doing it, and Tashmishay Mitzvah that are Nizrakin, that are allowed to go to the garbage. And the example is Tashmishay Kedusha is Tefillin, Mezuzahs, a cover for a Sefer Torah, a cover for Tefillin, the Ritzuas of Tefillin, These are Tashmishe Kedusha, and when you finish with them, they have to go into Geniza. Tashmishe Mitzvah are things that were used for a mitzvah, but didn't become holy themselves, like sukkah boards. You could throw them in the garbage afterwards, a lulav, people throw it in the chametz, in the beer chametz, but there's no, it doesn't have to go into Geniza, a shayfer, or even tzitzis. That's what the Mishnah says. These are things that are Tashmishe Mitzvah. So they don't retain the same level of holiness as the Tashmishe Kedusha. So what do we say up until here? That there's Dvarim Gashmi, that when we use Dvarim Gashmi for a mitzvah, for a Davar Shebekdusha, we're mezachech it, we refine it, and it remains holy, but on different levels. V'yasei mizeh, on another level, Gam b'dvarim she'eina mitzvah nasas be'em atzmam. In some cases, you didn't even use this very thing for a mitzvah, but the mitzvah was done because of it. If you're giving money to tzedakah, the dollar bill that you put in the pushka is the same as absolutely no holiness to it. Can't compare the dollar bill before it was used for tzedakah and after it was used for tzedakah, or the $10 bill or the $100 bill. The money that was given for tzedakah, even though the actual bill, the piece of paper, remains as mundane, as unholy as before it was used for the mitzvah, nevertheless, there has to be that beruchnius, there's a difference. Very, very fascinating. Something wonderful that happens because of the tzedakah. That this money affects all the money from which it was taken. Person went to work and he made a salary and he takes from his wage or his profit, and he gives 10% to tzedakah. So this 10% itself is a mitzvah. And even though the check that it was written with, or whatever it is, it doesn't change the level of holiness, but beruchni, something has changed. And not only that, but it affects all the other money, all the money the person worked on. The Moshe Rebbe says in Tanya that the tzedakah represents the chayi nafshay, that all the hard work that he invested his neshama in. So all the money that he worked, he invested his neshama into. Not his neshama, his nefesh, his life, his soul into it. And then when you give meiser from it, then all the money is elevated because you took meiser from it and you gave tzedakah. And based on this, in the case of meiser behema, the kedusha of the 10th, which we're about to discuss, will actually affect the other 9 as well. But we still should have to delve into that topic individually, which we don't do here in the Sikha. So going back to our discussion, the Dvarim Gashmiyim that are used for a mitzvah contain a holiness and retain the holiness even after we finish doing the mitzvah. And why is that? Where the Gemara says in Shabbos that the forces from above can go down below, and the forces from below can go up to above, which the Rebbe explains in numerous places that during Matan Torah, what happened was that the wall, the separation between ruchnius and gasmis, between material and spiritual, was broken down, and now spiritual can become the spirituality can come down into this world, and the physicality of this world can become spiritual or holy. It's really a better word. That when a yid does a mitzvah with a davar gashmi, the kedusha remains on the davar gashmi. This idea that really is a inyan in Chassidus, that there's a zichuch in dvarim gashmim that happens when they're used for davar shebekdusha, and that zichuch remains even beyond the time that you're using it for kedusha. This is seen in the Rashi over here in Meiser Behema. Meiser Behema tmima sheneman al zayiyah kedesh hine akdush shanasis bo niris bo begoli acharkach kreva gavim mizbeach. If the behema was a tmima, then the kedusha is obvious, because it's being brought in the mizbeach, dama ve'imura, the blood and the innards. She'ein makrivin eisa agabe hamizbeach, but a behemoth that's a balmum, which you can't bring in on mizbeach lechedel lenira ba kedusha achar shechad aleh kedusha's meiser. Seemingly you don't see any kedusha in it after the kedusha's meiser. You don't see the kedusha. It became meiser, but there's no way to express that kedusha. Just that you can't shear it or work it in the field, which is similar to the fact that you can't be disgrace a kedusha, but it doesn't show the kedusha. Schenk in the Pirush Rashi, Kivan shenis kaim about mitzvahs ma'aser v'chol ala kedusha, nisher abba kedusha shebala debitu b'kol ha'agam la'achrei zeh. Once it becomes ma'aser and the kedusha is applied to it, the kedusha remains even afterwards and is expressed in a revealed way. Ye'ochel b'teres ma'aser shekesh eichle alav mechaven shu eichel ma'aser, the one he's eating it. He has to be mechaven that he's eating it for ma'aser k'nis kilel. So here you see how the kedusha of something, of a davar gashmi, remains even beyond the time that it was used for a mitzvah. In the case of the tmima, it has to be brought in the mizbeach. But in the case of the balmum, seemingly the mitzvah was done. You separated meiser, you can't do anything else with it. He says no, the kedusha remains, and therefore when he eats it, ye'achal b'teres meiser. Oid inyan b'yena shel Torah. In Oy Zayin, he is going to learn another thing in Yena Shel Torah. Yena Shel Torah, as we've said before, it means the wine of Torah, refers to the fact, just like wine is drawn out of grapes, so too, the Yena Shel Torah is the Pnimiyus HaTorah, the deeper element, which often leads to a practical Hira in Avodas Hashem. So in this case, there's two separate Yena Shel Torahs, meaning there are two separate perspectives to look at. One is on this Rashi specifically, and the Chidush of Rashi, that you have to eat the Meiser, B'Teiras Meiser, you have to be Mechav on the Teiras Meiser, which shows us that even beyond the time that this Kedusha was used, that this Davar Gasmi was used for Davar Kedusha, the Kedusha remains with it. There's another concept, and this is in the order that Rashi chooses to use, where he says firstly achal b'teiras meiser and then aser ligazes v'le'aved, even though practically it's the opposite. First it's aser ligazes v'le'aved, and only after you shecht it you eat it b'teiras meiser. So he's going to learn a lesson from the seder, the order in which Rashi brings it. Another idea in the wine of Torah, another element that we could see here in the deeper aspect of things. From this Rashi, you have to turn away from the bad and do good. But the main bringing down the lakus into this world is through Vasei Tev. When you do good, you bring Kedusha down into this world. So in order to bring Kedusha into this world, or Lakus into this world, through a mitzvah saseh, through the Vasei Tev, first has to be Sur Meirah. The classic mashal, a melech basar adam, a king on this earth. You want to build from a palace. First you have to clear out the space from any dirt. Then you could bring in nice furniture and build it up nicely to be a beautiful palace. So the main intention is Vasei Tov, because Vasei Tov accomplishes the bringing down the Shechina. But in order to get to Vasei Tov, first you have to have the Sur Meirah. And this is what Rashi hints, alludes to in the order. First he says, first he says you should eat it as meiser, and then he says that you're not allowed to shear it or work it in the field. First Rashi speaks what's our main goal here. You should eat it as meiser, which is the positive action here, which is the Vasei Tov, which is where you see the element of Kedusha in a revealed way, the fact that a positive action is being done in it. Then he says that the Sur Mira aspect, which is the introduction and really secondary, only as a preparation to the Elokus, also the Gaz of Eliyavid. In other words, even though Alpi say the first to Sur Mira and then V'asei Tov, but when Rashi speaks about it, first he speaks about the main goal here, which is the V'asei Tov, and then he speaks about the secondary and more the preparatory aspect, which is the Asali Gaz of Eliyavid. V'hainu avshad zeder advarim b'peil arei tchila tzarech lias haziris b'Sur Mira shlei yiyu dvarim bilti ritzuyim v'achar kach ha'aveda b'asei Tov. The first you have to do Sur Mira, and then you could do. First you have to get rid of the negative. Only then could you do the positive. But in Rashi, which Rashi's purpose is ultimately to allude and to emphasize the pnimius. Rashi is emphasizing what's our main goal, what's our main purpose. To make a place for the Eibishter to do b'tachteinu to the V'asei Tov. And then now she points out that you also need to have Sur Mira in order to get to the V'asei Tov. But what's our goal? Our goal is V'asei Tov, because V'asei Tov brings down Hamshachas HaShechina. Now before we get to this, before we get to the last inyan, where the Rebbe explains why he mentions both Asr Ligazes and Le'aved, the Rebbe adds in another pshat, Oidish Leimar. Why he says first Yachal B'teres Meiser and then Asr Ligazes V'Le'aved, which is more al pia pshat and not necessarily connected to the. I mean, it's connected, but it's not based on the V'asei Tov and the Sur Mira. Maktim havadai yeyochel ve'achar kach hasafek. The fact that you're going to eat it is for sure. The ligazes v'liyavid is a suffix. Should be im yiyat semer aroy ligazes v'aveda aroy liyasad debei mezu also ligazes v'liyavid. The fact that you're going to want to shear this animal or use it to work in the field is not a certainty. You may have other animals. You may not need this animal. The fur, the hair might be short. It's too short to cut. By the time it gets geschochten, there's no chance b'chlal. So eating is a vada, and ligazes v'liyavid is a suffix, and therefore he says first ligazes to eat it because that's the vadai before he says ligazes v'liyavid, which is a suffix. Okay. But let's go back to what we were discussing until now. That the Seder Nashi is the first he goes to our main goal, which is the Asei Tov, because that's what's going to bring down the Shechina, and only then does he speak about the Sur Mira. Even though the Sur Mira, like we said, is only a preparation to bringing down the Kedusha Begilui through V'asei Tov, Mikol Mokim. This is very important. Person might think, if we said the whole goal over here is the V'asei Tov, a person might not be so careful in the Sur Mira. But okay, Sur Mira, let's get past it. Let's get straight to the V'asei Tov. That's the whole goal here. The whole goal is to bring the Hamshachas HaShechina through V'asei Tov. The Sur Mira is only Akdama V'achana. No. When it comes to Sur Mira, you have to be careful in all the details of Sur Mira. And therefore Rashi explains that there's two aspects to it. Isur Giza, Isur Aveda. Hazir Sorach Lias Heim Ba'Aveda Anasis Begufa Be'ema Tahainu Binyanim Ikriyim. Aveda means that the animal should do the work, which would be using the actual body, the actual behema, to do the work. So you can't do that. You have to be careful on not to do work with the behema, which represents the Sur Mira in Inyanim Ikriyim in primary areas. Ve'heim begiza, she beside us, even to cut the hair of the behemoth, which is only in the hair. Shasaides and esbesare, atafel b'sare, hair is only something that's secondary to the actual skin. Nevertheless, there too there has to be a zahirus. When it comes to Sur Mira, even though the whole Sur Mira is secondary, nevertheless, even those things that seem less important or less significant, even there has to be a zahirus in the kedusha of it. when you're doing a sur meirah, to do a sur meirah even in the details that don't seem important. When you do the Aveda in this Seder, that you're careful, Sai in the Giza, and Sai in the Aveda. Then when you do the Sur Meirah right, then you can do the Vasei Tev right, and when you do the Vasei Tev right, comes the proper Amshacha on the Vasei Tev. Lastly, is Barach Dida B'Tachtenim, to be able to make a Dida B'Tachtenim for the Eibishter, which is the whole purpose of why we are here. And it's fascinating to point out how the Sefer ends with this. I mean, of course, there's a suffix to the Sefer, but the Siches, the Likutim of the Likutei Siches ends with this Nekuda, which is a Nekuda that was spoken about time and again throughout the Sefer in so many different ways. The Aveda that we have, that everything that we're doing here is for a Dida B'Tachtenim, is that down here Lamata, we should be able to change the Gashmias of the world, to change it through the ability that we were given by Matan Torah, which we're going to celebrate shortly, to be able to bring Ruchnius into this world and to transform this world into Gashmius and to make this world a Didele Yisbarach B'Tachtenim. May we be zeicha to see it be'enei basar with the Gula Amitas Vashlema Mherev Yaminu Mamish. Chazak v'nis chazek. Chaim.